Hey everyone, and welcome to Quantum Acacias. My name is Dee Dee, and I'm so glad that we found each other. I'm a little winded. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure why, because all I was doing was like looking up at the moon. Where we are in Arizona, I guess we get such good views of the moon. A lot of the time, it's like directly overhead. And I feel like when I was in New Orleans, it was usually like off to the side, but a lot of times it's directly overhead or it's overhead, like a little bit off to the side. And I was looking at it because it's got this huge, I call it a moon bow. I don't know what it's called, but it's got this huge circle like thing in the sky, which in Arizona, like, we don't have clouds all the time. And it's so interesting because there's a video that I'm posting with my adventure in the Astrals, and it talks about riding this wormhole that looks like a current in water. And that's exactly like what the cloud looks like tonight. Like, it is the wildest thing. I might get out after this video and take a picture of it so you guys can see it. But it looks like there's like this current of clouds, and this current of clouds is flowing literally towards the moon. And it's almost like an abstract painting. I feel like I kind of saw this like in my dream last night, like in a painting actually. And anyways, there's a moon bow, like, and it's ginormous. So it's almost like the moon is like the sun, like a little dot. And then there's this huge, gigantic ring in the clouds, like almost away from it. And there was also like this little line too. And it looked like a clock, almost like a clock with a hand. So I thought that was so interesting. For some reason, I was winded looking at it. So anyways, I'm glad that we found each other. I'm doing this on the night of the 9th, going into the 10th. So the full moon is supposed to be at its peak on the 12th. I'm not sure. I'm mountain time. I'm not sure what time mountain time, but yeah, so maybe there's some full moon energies with this. So, adventures in the astrals. Of course, I like to give a little bit of background. So, a little bit of background. I was talking to a friend today, and he was telling me about this article he read last night about them finding pyramids in Louisiana. And it made me think about this astral that I'm going to talk about, because there's been this very interesting synchronicity of confirmation coming through this week. Like, I did, so I'm a QHHT level 1 practitioner. I have been for like a few years now, for a variety of reasons. But I've done quite a few QHHT sessions. But I was doing QHHT, and I just felt like I needed some more background before I just jumped into it. So anyways, that's not really the point. But I did some of my first QHHT sessions just practicing before I went to people that I didn't know on family. And one of my family members got a QHHT session, and she talked about something from ancient Egypt with King Tut that was very, very specific in her session, and I haven't recorded it. It's so interesting. And then anyways, 2 days ago, I was on Instagram, and there was this report about this guy who did this, oh, that's interesting, who did this, what do you call it, like, they found 12 shoes of King Tut, and then they reconstructed these shoes, and he made this comment that she actually had made in her session. I'll talk about it at a different day, because I'll go off onto this branch of the conversation and that branch of the conversation, and child, I'll be every which way talking about everything. So let me stick to what I want to talk about: adventures in the astral. Okay, so in this one, this was back in either 2018 or 2019. I can't remember exactly. But in this one, I actually woke up, like I caught consciousness, I say it like that, like I caught awareness as I was in the shoe store. Okay, so I was in the shoe store and I was with my parents, and they were buying me work shoes. Okay, so as they were buying me these work shoes, it was like I was literally trying on shoes, like I was back in high school and I was trying on shoes to see if they fit. And I remember, like, as I was trying on these shoes, I was getting very emotional because none of the shoes fit my feet. And I had had memories, like, in this life, in this timeline, I'm gonna get to that in a second, of when I tried on shoes before I went to high school. And it's funny because I just had a friend request from someone who is connected to high school for me. So that's very wild. But anyways, as I was trying on these shoes for high school in this timeline, this waking reality, I couldn't find any shoes that fit my feet comfortably. So majority of my experience in school, in high school, were my shoes not fitting, like me not feeling comfortable in my shoes. And then eventually I would come to find out that I have wide feet. My feet are not narrow. And it's very interesting because my husband has narrow feet. And maybe they're considered normal. I don't know if they're normal or narrow. I don't know. But even like giving birth to, I have 5 kids. Like it wasn't until literally the 4th one where she had narrow, like more narrow feet. Maybe they're normal. I don't know. But not wide feet. And I was like, oh, okay. This is what, like the shoes in the store, they're made for these type of feet. Like, and it's funny because my husband will play around with me and stuff, and he'll be like, you got really solid feet. And I do. They're very solid, thick feet. Do you know what I'm saying? And so anyways, in this dream, that's what I was really focused on, was like that I had finally found a pair of shoes that fit my feet and I was comfortable. And so as I was like in that feeling, I was really excited. I remembered that I was really excited in general because I had finished college, which in this timeline, I didn't finish college. In that one though, I finished college and I had gone to school for what I felt like something that my parents would be really proud that I did. And so I knew that I was like 2 or 3 months past. That's so funny because there's this like black cat. We have like this family of black cats that live in the area. And like I'm in the dark and I guess the cat can see the reflection of me talking, and it's like walking on this wall next to the house and is like, what is that in that car? And it's funny because it looks like it's like a white cat, and we don't typically have other color cats except for black. It's really families of black cats. Okay, anyways, focus, Dee, focus. Okay. So anyways, so I was like, okay, I finished college and I knew that I was getting this work uniform because like the following day I was going to be starting my job. Now, I couldn't like remember what my job was, but I knew that my parents had gotten me a job. So, I also knew that this version of me was, how would I say it, was, quote unquote not awakened. So in this timeline, I was younger than I was at the time of that. So in 2018, I was like, oh shoot, that was 5 years ago. So I was like 20, wait, I'm 32, and 5, 32 and 5, 27 or 26, 26, 27. But in this dream, in this timeline, I was like 24, so I was a little bit young. No, I must have been much younger than that, like 21 maybe. Yeah, maybe 21 or something like that. And I had not had my awakening in college. Okay, so I was not aware of spiritual things and things like that to a certain extent, because like I had spiritual experiences and things like that, like growing up, but like, I didn't know what to call them or what terms were, anything like that. Like, they were just kind of a part of life. But I had not had this, like, awakening experience in the sense of, like, finding the words and the experiences and realizing that this was not just my reality. That's kind of how I interpret it. Younger was like, oh, this is my reality and everyone is not experiencing that. So when I did have this like awakening in college my sophomore year, I basically started to find other people who were like me. And I was like, oh, okay, it's not just my reality. Like, there's other people experiencing this. So anyways, so in this dream, I ended up going to sleep. I took a bath. I was really prepared for my job the next day and everything like that. I was super excited, and like it just felt like, yay, everything was good. And I didn't know what my job was, but I knew my parents had gotten this job for me, and so I was like, okay, it's gonna be great. I'm like a woman now, you know? And so anyways, so I end up waking up the next morning. And when I woke up the next morning, I'm like putting on my uniform, I'm putting on my shoes. Like, I had my hair done, I had everything done. Like, I got to eat breakfast. Like, everything just seemed so perfectly put together, and I was really excited. And then, like, as I was sitting down to wait to go to my job, I was really like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing for my work. And then I looked at my uniform, and the uniform didn't seem like it was what I went to school for. So I was like, what type of job did they get me? But I didn't really think too deeply into it. I was just like, okay, I guess it's gonna be fine. So anyways, the next thing I know, there's like a knock at the door, and there's this guy, okay? And he looked like he looks like he worked for Orkin. I guess in that reality they have Orkin. So I'm like, why is the Orkin man at the door? This can't be my job. Like, literally, like the white suit, like almost like a painter suit, but not exactly. He also had like this white rim kind of hat with the string to keep it on his head. He had like this clipboard and everything. And he's like, are you Dee Dee? And I'm like, yeah, that's me. He's like, all right, come on, it's time to go. So we walk outside, and he's got this like Orkin van or something. Now, it didn't say Orkin on it, and his shirt didn't say Orkin, but that's just what I was thinking in my head, like the Orkin man. But it was like this white van type of situation. And I was so green that I didn't even think, like, is this person trying to kidnap me? Like, I was just like, this is odd. Like, did I I don't know what this job is about. Like, me in this life, I'm be like, I'm not going anywhere. Who are you? What's your badge number? Do you know what I'm saying? But in this timeline, I was just like, okay, interesting. So he opens the van as he's checking off stuff on his clipboard, and he opens the van, and there are other girls in there, okay? Other women. And they have on the same uniform as me, and I'm just confused at this point. So I'm like, what are we going to do? And these other women look like they were confused. Like, they look like they didn't belong in these uniforms either. So I'm like, what type of job did they what type of job did they sign me up for? Because these girls look confused too. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't look like they know what's going on either. So I get in the van anyway. And so I get in the van, and we're driving and we're driving. And I realized that we've been driving for like a really long time, like hours. And I realized that we're in like some remote part of Louisiana. And this place is so remote that I didn't even remember seeing any street signs. Like, maybe there was one on like a piece of literal wood or something like that. But I don't even remember seeing any street signs. So we start pulling off this road that's like literally, when you have like those long stretches of road between towns. It almost felt like that. And so that's when I started getting worried. And I'm like, where is this guy taking us? Because we're turning off and off road. And I'm like, where is he going? So anyways, we go down this dirt path situation that's not really a path. And there's this huge clearing, okay? This huge clearing of grass that looked like somebody went out there and at least cut the grass. It was very abnormal because everything around it was overgrown. So I'm like, okay, this is interesting. And so behind that, if you are facing forward, if you're facing forward, then the plot of grass is like off to the right, okay? Totally clear. Now, further to the right is like a more elevated land that also looked like it was cut, but it was behind a fence, okay? We'll get to that. So we all get out of the car, and by this time everybody is definitely like, what's going on? You know, like, why are we out here? Why are we in these uniforms? What is the deal? So he starts sectioning everybody off into like groups of 3. Okay, so there had to be about like 20 something girls, groups of 3. And so in these groups of 3, we were put onto certain parts of this land, and we were told that we were supposed to be digging up this land and that there were pipes underneath the ground. And we were replacing the copper pipes with plastic pipes. Okay. By this point, I'm like, I definitely didn't go for, I don't know, electrician, child. Ooh, child. Would that be an electrician? I don't know if that would be an electrician, but I feel like electricians deal with pipes, child. I don't know, whatever. I don't know, okay? But I'm like, I didn't go to school for this. Construction. Maybe it's construction. Child. Maybe it's construction, okay? I definitely didn't go to school for this, okay? So I'm like, what type of job? Like, at this point, I'm like, what type of job did they sign me up for? Because I don't think I've questioned them up to this point, really, but this is real questionable. And so we have our tools, and I'm at my area with the girls, and we're digging. And I'm like, what am I doing? So anyways, in our section, I started noticing the cement, okay? Now, the crazy thing is, I put my hand on the cement, and I was like, oh, this is something old here. And I immediately knew that, okay? So it was kind of like my consciousness from this reality was about 20%. And that timeline consciousness was like 80%. So I had enough consciousness and awareness to be observing myself and like being like, this is not right, but not enough to overpower that version in a sense, or like move that version out of the way to interact, if that makes sense. And so I had enough to be like, something else is going on here. So as I'm digging, I find some more of this kind of stone, and it looked very similar kind of to concrete, but I knew it wasn't exactly concrete. It was some type of stone, and it was very old. It was very old. And so I'm like, this is weird because what was here before? Like, I just felt like something was there before. So anyways, digging, having fun. And we start to get down to the systems, okay? I get down there, and I'm going to try to explain it, but the pipes were already plastic. Okay, that was number 1. And so at this point, I'm really confused because he said that they were copper pipes and we were replacing them with plastic. Now, the piping was also very strange because it was like plastic pipes, but there was like connectors between the pipes that were some type of copper or brass or something. So it was almost like 2 connected pieces of piping, but it definitely didn't look like water would be going through it because there was like this brass kind of copper coil in between these plastic pieces, something like that. And so at this point, I'm like really confused because not only is it already plastic, but I'm feeling woozy, like I'm going like almost in and out of consciousness. And I know that like in this timeline, I'm not a person that faints. Okay. So as I'm literally like feeling the pipes and I'm touching them and I'm confused, I'm like wobbling. I'm like, what is going on? And then I literally hear a voice. So in this timeline, and it's gonna sound funny, but like I feel like she had not heard a voice before. Okay. I'm clairaudient, so I definitely can hear spirits or whoever, interdimensional beings, the government, basting frequencies, whatever it is, I can hear it. But not her. Okay. So I hear this female voice, and this female voice says clearly, "You are the copper." And I'm like, what is she talking about? And who is talking to me? But I'm also like in and out of consciousness, so I don't have time to do like this whole spiel of like whose voice is that, and like to have a breakdown and, question every reality and stuff, because I'm like in between realities right now, basically. But she's perceiving me as like about to pass out. And so I hear her say it again, "You are the copper." And so I'm like, oh, they must be looking for people that are interacting with whatever is down here. And that's when I start realizing like, oh, I'm about to pass out because I'm interacting with this. So literally in the dream, I pass out. Like I literally slip out of consciousness, okay? And so then I literally wake back up in consciousness. So I know it's not really a dream, but that's like the way that I could explain it for everybody to kind of understand. But I wake up in the dream. Okay, so literally I passed out, and I guess I stayed in astral limbo until that version of me woke up again. It was wild. And when I woke up again, I was on the other side of the fence, and all the other girls, except for two other girls, were going home. Okay, they were getting in the van and they were leaving. And then it was me and two other girls, and we were on the other side of the fence. So we were talking to the guy because he was ushering the other girls, and it looked like the other two girls I was with were just waking up as well. One of them was clearly like East Asian. And then the other woman was a white woman with blonde hair. Okay, now this is phenotypically, so I don't know all of their ancestry and everything like that, but phenotypically, that's what they look like, okay? So as we're orienting ourselves and they're getting in the van to leave and stuff, the guy comes over to come and talk to us. And he's like, it's very simple. All I want you to do is just start walking. So not walking back towards the van, but walk deeper onto this, I'm just going to call it like a plateau. Okay, this plateau. As we start walking, it's all like, I can't even describe it. As we start walking, it's like we literally start walking back in time. Like it was crazy. And it's like literally the ground started shifting and moving. And it was like we're literally walking back to an older time or something that this land was on. And so we're walking. And then as we're walking, it's like I start literally like getting my memories back, like memories of this lifetime, and then also memories connected to this land. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm remembering this, I'm remembering it. And then the other two girls are remembering it. And so then there starts to form this very old bath, like a sacred bath. So it looks like, very narrow steps all the way around, and it's a triangle, and you fill it up with water. And people use it to meditate. So you would get into the bath, you would lay on your back and float, and then you would meditate. Something like a very old version of a what is it? Is it cryogenic chamber? Sensory deprivation. I'm sorry, not cryogenic. A sensory deprivation chamber. A very, like a earlier form of that, okay? And so there is no water in it yet, but we knew that there was supposed to be water in it. It was very dry, okay? And so we're like literally stepping down into the bath, and I'm like, where's the pyramid? There's supposed to be a pyramid over top of it. And it's like the pyramid sits on top of the bath, and there's some type of resonance or something with the pyramid and the water, and I couldn't quite remember it. However, as I started getting to the center of the bath, I started remembering that there were beings connected to this temple. Pyramid, but temple. Okay. Now the next thing I know, we are back on, it was crazy. Next thing I know, we're back on that land in the present moment for that timeline, and there are 3 beings looking at us. Okay. 3 beings looking at us. One is jet black, like the cosmos, like the deepest ebony you have ever seen. I mean, it was phenomenal. It was crazy. And he had super glowing gold yellow eyes. The next guy standing next to us looked like he was straight out of a Mongolian army. That was the guy that was standing in front of me. And his eyes were also gold, but not as intense as the first guy's. And the woman that was sitting in front of him was the Asian woman. And then in front of the blonde woman was the last guy, who was the Persian guy. And he also had gold eyes, but they were much more normal human eyes. He was the most human looking one. So they all had different uniforms on. The Persian guy definitely looked more like the Middle East, type of dress, like Turkish kind of type of dress. Like I said, the guy in front of me was like the Mongolian Khan kind of warrior army kind of uniform. And then the first guy was wearing actually like this very dark black cat suit kind of situation, and he had chrome embellishments, like actual chrome embellishments, and there were languages and stuff on his. And as I was staring at all of them, I started to realize that this guy who was like supposed to be the Orchid Man was actually working for some organization or something like that. And they had been paid to find, we'll say, the tomb of these individuals, believing that bringing them back was some type of necessary thing or something like that, child. And what I had remembered was that a very long time ago, a group of witches, people probably would call them witches now, but they were seers and prophetesses and oracles and stuff, got together and specifically locked these 3 beings up somewhere, or broke their connection to this pyramid or something, like cut their connection here because they were doing very, very heinous stuff on earth. And so as soon as we saw them, we like remembered, like, and we were like in a panic. We're like, oh my gosh, these idiots woke up these giants and they have no clue what they woke up. Like, we like bound them. Like, it felt like thousands of years ago. And they woke them up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And the crazy part is, I don't even know what happened after that, because I ended up going to a different dream where I was babysitting this couple's children. I was taking their children to this movie about this animated girl who was from a different planet, and she didn't feel like she felt like she was from Earth, and she couldn't really connect. And it was, like the story about her finding herself. And so I was babysitting them and taking them to the movie. And then I remembered that this movie featured the Magenta planet. And when I thought about the Magenta planet, I was like, oh, that's my home. Now, the crazy part is there actually is a pink planet, and they have numbers associated to New Orleans with this planet, which is wild. But in the dream, I literally saw the Magenta planet, and I was like, oh, that's like home. That's my home or something. And I specifically think that it's connected to ice queens. But anyways, yeah, that was the dream. I hope that it was interesting. Like always, if you have any connections you want to say, you could definitely leave it in a comment, or you can email me. Make sure you check the description box below. I'm sending you lots of hugs.